All right. So, why the impossible to pronounce name? Well, to start, there's two creators I want to talk about first. First, I want to mention Riley J. Dennis, and second, Cocorrina. Riley's here on YouTube. I don't know about Cocorrina. I know she's on Instagram. That's where I find most of their stuff. But a while back, Riley was doing a lot of Avatar videos because she really loved that show. And I loved it too, despite its flaws. And something about the introduction to chakras that Aang has with the guru stuck with me. I knew it wasn't perfect, but it was my introduction to the chakra system. And my second or third time around with that show, I felt this extreme resonance with the questions the guru was asking Aang. And I felt like these were some ancient mental health questions that today are really easy to lose sight of. But if you can't answer these questions with something, then I would say you might be a little alexithymic, because they're all part of the mortal experience. Turns out, this is called Kundalini Yoga. And these chakras, this system has been around for a very long time. But for anyone who doesn't know, starting from the bottom up, your chakras are earth, water, fire, air, sound, light, and thought. And what I'm drawing right now are my combined sigils for each. Cocorrina released a great tutorial on making sigils that a good friend of mine introduced me to. I think that it wasn't my introduction to Cocorrina's work, but it was my introduction to making sigils. And it's a lot of fun, but also it feels really good. And after I tried out a few different ways of doing it, I started making them for the chakras, my own sigils, for the chakra system. And it turns out this is something else that's really old. Drawing symbols or writing words, and people have been copying religious texts for thousands of years. They're still doing it and drawing understanding from the practice to draw some power of the divine that's in those works into themselves, so that they can bring it into the world. So, yeah, these chakra questions really resonated with me. For Earth deals with survival and fear. So the question is, what are you afraid of? And like, as a person that goes through, a day living here on Earth with a mortal body, with some people that you're probably attached to and that you probably love, it is natural to have some fears. And it feels actually very important to be able to recognize what those fears are. Right? If you don't know what you're afraid of, then how can you combat it? How can you adapt to survive your fears? Water, the next one, deals with it deals with pleasure and guilt. So the question was, what do you blame yourself for? And it's like, oh, here we go. Now we're getting into the therapy stuff, right? Well, what do you think therapy is? It's like, what are the things that we call therapeutic? The stuff that helps us deal with guilt, shame, fear, grief. So, yeah, for the rest of the beginners, the beginner's chakra guide, water deals with guilt and pleasure. So what do you blame yourself for? Fire deals with will and shame. So what are you ashamed of? Or I like to think, what makes you feel less than? And then what's next? Air deals with love and grief. What do you grieve for? What are you sorry that you've lost? And yeah, just some, okay, so, yep. Air, grief, and love. So sound deals with truth and lies. And I really like the guru asked Aang, so what are the lies that you tell yourself? Oh man, like, you can recognize those. Like, imagine the power that you'll have over yourself once the lies that you tell to yourself are clear. It became pretty clear to me that the most repeated lie that I tell myself is I can't. Because the truth is, I can. I can find a way. Might not be perfect, might not be how I first imagine it, but I can. Next is light. It deals with illusions and intuition. And the illusions are the things that separate us from each other, from the world, from the experience of living. And your intuition puts those pieces together. You intuitively put pieces together in your mind all the time. And yeah, that's what your intuition can tell you about the world. That you are not separate from the world. You are together, one with the world. And finally, thought is the last one, which deals with attachments and enlightenment. And I like to think that we get each of these things, like, unconsciously, all the time. We're dealing with these things all the time in little ways, little micro situations. You're coming across something that you're afraid of and you're adapting to stop it. You're feeling the guilt of maybe impeding someone else's pleasure, and you're adapting to try to make it right so that you can forgive yourself, so that you can truly enjoy some pleasure, right? Your will, like, you're supporting your own will all the time over what you want to do with yourself and your life. And you're constantly coming up against things that make you feel that, oh, maybe there's another will that's greater than yours. Maybe there's something that's more important than your will. Maybe you're lesser than something else that you're coming up against in the world. It makes you feel that way. And there's a regular process in your brain that's telling you, no, that's not right. If there's a greater thing, it's a collective thing. There's no one person that should be telling me what I need to be doing. I'm the one trying to figure out what I need to be doing. They need to worry about themselves. Yeah. The little lies we tell ourselves and the truths. Underneath. illusion of things being separate. And the feeling, like when you make a correspondence, you find something and you're like, oh, that lines up with something else that was already in my head. And how good that feels. That you had intuitively put something together that you might not have had all the pieces for. And then when you do find all the pieces, and it validates that intuition. And yeah, little pieces of enlightenment. I feel like those are happening all the time. Like we go into a flow state. And it's not what they call enlightenment, but there are some elements in there of enlightenment, right? It's like a little mini enlightenment, just the tip of that iceberg, where you have a moment where you don't have to think at all. You're just doing what feels good. And stuff's happening while you're doing it. It feels connected to that same muscle. So, that's why the impossible name. I've been making these sigils. This is my combined sigil of all of them. And I've been making these for some time now. Almost a year. And yeah. I've gotten a lot out of making them. I want to do like a little how-to, maybe in the next video. A way to follow along. And you can pronounce it however you like. It doesn't matter. In my head, I hear Ufa salt or Ufa. And that's why the name. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you again soon.